Hello, my name is Gabby Leo, and I'm a data scientist at SenseCorp, and I want to welcome you to my PyOhio Lightning talk on creating a custom chatbot with Python and Azure Bot Services. My contact information is currently on the slide, gleo@sensecorp.com. I love connecting with fellow Python and data science enthusiasts, so feel free to contact me with any questions after the talk, but let's go ahead and get started. Here's a quick outline of my talk today. I'm going to start with a chatbot overview, touching on why chatbots are important and how they work. Then I'll move into a comparison of different chatbot platforms across multiple attributes, taking a deeper dive into one of the platforms, Azure Bot Service, pointing out key features and add-ons, and then I'll wrap up with a sample chatbot architecture diagram, as well as a quick live demo. So let's jump into it. Why am I talking about chatbots today? They have become increasingly popular, and almost every website that you go to that is offering a service, chatbots are being implemented to mimic a human-to-human interaction, but now using a human-to-machine interaction. So why are companies doing this? Put simply, it's to streamline the interaction and enhance the customer experience, which happens in two ways: by improving the customer engagement process and improving operational efficiency, which in turn both lead to a reduction in costs across the board for customer service. We've all waited in a long queue to talk to a customer service representative just to ask for a simple refund or to cancel our account. Chatbots simplify these interactions along with even more complex ones, freeing up the call agents to work on other initiatives and saving the customer time down the line. The question still remains though, how do we mimic a human-to-human interaction with a machine? Let's take a dive into how chatbots work. At the core of a chatbot are two different tasks: a user request analysis and returning the response. Looking at the diagram on the screen, you see that the user sends a request and that input needs to be analyzed to pull out specific intents and entities, and then the chatbot creates a response off of those intents and entities and sends that response back to the user. This loop continues until the user's requests are complete. But what are intents and entities, and what types of responses does a chatbot give back? An intent is just what it sounds like, the intention of the end user. Let's look at an example to make this clearer. If the user says, "Show me yesterday's financial news," the bot would classify the intent as to retrieve a list of financial headlines, and intents are given a name, often a verb and noun. So for this example, the intent name would be "show news." Now, you might be looking at that and thinking some information might be missing from that intent, such as, okay, we know we want news, but from what day and what type of news do we want? So this would be what we called entities. These entities in this specific example would be identified as yesterday and financial. And they would be given names like date time and news type. So if you think about it, this can balloon and explode pretty quickly, with many intents and entities needing to be recognized by your chatbot. And on top of that, there isn't a one-size-fits-all response to every intent and entity. Sometimes your bot can respond back a generic and predefined text. Sometimes it's using a knowledge base, which has frequently asked question and answer pairs to return the answer to a question in that list. Other times it needs to access data from your enterprise system or even ask a follow-up question to get more information from the user. So with so many different intents and entities for different domains, along with multiple different types of responses, thinking of how to build a chatbot can be really daunting. But tools exist out there to get you started. So let's take a look at some of these tools and how they compare and contrast against each other. This graphic is displaying four of the most common types of chatbots out there, in order from the most complex to the least complex. On the left side, you see building from scratch, which is going to be the most complex. Comparing across different attributes, you can see that the level of effort and time to implement a from-scratch solution is going to be really high. You're going to need to bring your own data, and in terms of scalability, it's going to be tough as you're going to have to build out every new piece of functionality from scratch. The benefits of this option, though, are that the long-term costs are low, you aren't using a service or platform to help you, so you're really only paying for the development costs, and you have complete full control over your customization. On the far right side, though, in contrast to that, is the least complex option, which is AIML, and that stands for AI Markup Language. This is going to be an exact string match or lookup. So in terms of customization, think very low. You're only going to get a static response, and that response is only going to happen if there was an exact string match. There's no brain power to this chatbot. Plus, scalability is going to be really difficult because you have to add in every possible question you can think of that your user would want to ask for each domain. So imagine trying to build out a new domain using AIML. The benefits, though, are that the level of effort and time to implement are low, as well as the data size requirements for the long-term costs. The middle of this diagram is the sweet spot, so it pulls from the advantages of both extremes and minimizes the disadvantages of both. Dialogflow is Google's chatbot platform and Azure Bot Service is Microsoft's. They are both faster to spin up than building from scratch and come with pre-built domains, so you don't necessarily have to bring your own data depending on what you're trying to do. They are both fully customizable and have add-ons which can make scaling in the future super easy. The only thing to note is that in terms of cost, you will be paying more for these solutions as you are using a service. But the flexibility of customization, along with the ease of use to spin one up and the integration with other tools, make these the clear winners in the space. So let's take a closer look at Azure Bot Service to fully understand what I mean by flexibility of customization and why this is so important. To start with, Azure Bot Service integrates with some of Microsoft's add-ons to get you off the ground and running quickly without having to write custom NLP code. Lewis helps identify intents and entities for pre-built domains so you can create your own custom domains. The picture in the top right is showing an example of Lewis using the home automation domain. If you choose this as your domain for your chatbot, it would have pre-trained models to pick up intents and entities, so when your user sends a request such as turn the right light on, Lewis would return the intent is to turn on with 90% confidence and that the entity related to that intent is the right light. It also integrates with Microsoft's Q&A Maker, which is the knowledge base I referred to earlier. You just have to upload an Excel sheet with your predetermined frequently asked questions and their answers, and Q&A will train a model on the click of a button to respond to the user with the answer that corresponds to the question the user asked. In the future, if you want to scale your chatbot to voice assistant, there is a speech-to-service tool you could add onto the framework. And lastly, there's a text analytics API, which allows you to detect sentiment from a sentence. So there's a lot of out-of-the-box solutions to get you up and running pretty quickly. Plus, if none of these options work for you and you have a complex task you need your bot to carry out, you can use the Python SDK. From building a Q&A bot to your own branded virtual assistant, there are many templates out there that you can download to get started and a ton of documentation online to keep you going. Giving you a template to work off and pre-built functions to interact with the user, the pain of building from scratch is taken away, but you're still able to customize and write and train your own NLP models to pull out exactly what you need from the user's request and respond all natively in our favorite language, Python. Let's take a look at what an example chatbot architecture would look like using all that Microsoft has to offer. First, the user sends a message, which can be on any platform that Azure Bot Service integrates with, such as Teams, Skype, Slack, or even a personal website. The message is sent to your Azure Bot Service instance, and firstly can be run through the Q&A Maker to see if the user has asked any of the questions in your frequently asked questions list. If it's not in there, it can then be sent through Lewis, who will try to detect any intents and entities associated with any of the pre-built domains or custom domains you have created. If this also turns up empty-handed, we can then use our custom NLP in Python, which includes text preprocessing, such as removing stop words and lemmatizing the text. We'll encode and vectorize our text, create our feature vectors, all to understand what the user is saying. In this example, the custom NLP detects that the user wants to search the enterprise system for a specific document over a topic. So vector comparisons are made across the user's input and the document library to return the most similar documents, and the user then gets a list of the top 3 documents pertaining to that topic. As you can see in the custom NLP section, anything can be done here using Python, think sentiment analysis, topic modeling, document search and retrieval, plus many more. You're no longer limited to frequently asked questions or intents and entities in your domain that Lewis recognizes. So let's see this in real time. I'll be showcasing an Echo bot today, which can be used as a starting point to create a custom NLP bot. Let's take a look at the bot script. In this script, you're creating your bot. So this is where you would add in all the custom NLP. Our simple bot just returns you said and whatever, and you can see that here. But what you can also see is that you're not having to program the functions to understand what the user said or what the user's input was. These are pre-built functions that come with the framework, which is awesome and saves you a lot of time. Then we have our main script, which is app. This is where you call the instance of your bot and create the app your bot will be on. You open up a new terminal and run the app script, and then we open up the bot framework emulator to test out our bot. So let's give it a try. So here we're going to run our app. Then we're going to open our emulator, connect it to our bot that's running right now, and go ahead and test it out. So as you can see, from my code here in my bot instance, anytime a new member is added, I want it to say something, right? So for this example, I want it to say hello and welcome to my PyOhio Lightning Talk. So when I open up my emulator, that's the first thing that you say. If I want to respond back to the bot and say, hello, PyOhio 2020 is awesome, as we saw from what I programmed, the only thing it's going to return is the echo. So you said, hello, PyOhio 2020 is awesome. But as you can see, look how easy and how little code this is for you to then go ahead and add in all your custom NLP in here to make it do whatever you want when it gets a user's input. So if you take away anything from this talk, the three things I want you to go away with here are that the flexibility, easy development, and ability to scale in the future for Azure Bot Service are almost unmatched in the market and can get you started quickly in the language you are most familiar with, Python. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.